All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this GCOR interviews for the Singapore Grand Prix. I'm joined with Chaconas, Ollie Freeman, and Stolas. So, Chick, we're going to start with you. Obviously, your first race of the season out in Australia, and I just want to know how you felt with your opening race.
Yeah, I mean, first time back in these new cars. It's always a nice experience, you know. Pre-season at Bahrain, we struggled a lot. So we knew from the get-go, from the get-go, we're going to be on the back foot. Um, but Australia was all right. I mean, P6 in qualifying, we didn't really get proper qualifying lap like done. So I'll take it. The sprint race, we're unfortunate to be involved with the incident with Tyler and Sikofa. But I mean, for the feature race, for the main race, it was just about staying out of trouble, bringing home the points, and Ollie Freeman, he was unlucky. He managed to understand the car much quicker than I managed to understand the car. And he definitely deserved the win. But hey ho, this is motor racing. These things happen, and I'll take a P2. I'll definitely take a P2. I think all we can do from this weekend is take the positives, learn from the negatives, and just move on. Really.
Okay, thank you. Now, Ollie, I've got a question for you
There
now.
we go.
Ollie, so obviously Australia, Chick said you've understood the car better so far this season. So, do you think you're going to be in the championship fight this year? And if not, do you think Merck can still challenge for the constructors after a tricky weekend?
All right. I don't know about this season because I'm gonna miss quite a few races, I think. But if I didn't miss it, I definitely think I could be in the championship fight because going to Australia, I don't know, didn't know it was gonna be like the pace. I got pole. I was leading the sprint race until I overtook the safety car and just got disqualified. And then I crashed into the pits, leading the actual race. But yeah, it was looking alright. I definitely think I could fight for the championship if I was racing in all the races and that. But I don't know. Maybe next season. Maybe next season. Maybe. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Right, I've got another question for Chaconas now. This one's about Singapore Grand Prix qualifying. You always need to have good pace around Singapore. Do you think you can repeat the feat again this week and get another pole position?
As I said, the car this season's been tricky. It's been a tricky one to understand, to say the least. Obviously Singapore, I don't know why, but us motor racers, us race drivers, we just like some tracks more than others, and I guess on statistics, this one's one of my better tracks. I don't know why. Um, but if we can achieve even a front row, or even a second row start at this point, I'll be very grateful for it. I'm not expecting anything much. I understand the car's, it's not where we would like it to be. And don't get me wrong, we're still developing, we're still learning about the car. But maybe a podium if we're lucky. But there's only one way to find out, really.
Okay, thank you. Ollie, obviously you're not racing this weekend and you're going to miss a few races this season. Do you think that's going to affect your future with Merck, or do you think that you're safe for the time being?
Nah, I think they're happy with me. I've done a good job before, and they know I'm yeah. I mean, who else are they going to pick really apart from me? So yeah,
That is true. You're a very strong driver, multiple podium finisher, fighting for wins and poles every week. So,
yeah.
top driver.
When I don't crash, that is anyway.
Yeah, I think iron that out and your championship challenger like your teammate.
Mm,
Anyway,
mm.
speaking of your teammate, another one for Chick. And obviously got the clean sweep last time around here in Singapore, qualifying fastest lap and the win. We've obviously talked about pole, but for the win jinx, Singapore's going to be a good way to properly jumpstart your season after the podium in Australia, or do you think it's going to be a couple more races until you properly build on that?
I mean, if we manage to win at Singapore, wow. I mean, I have to go to church the day after to thank God because I don't see that happening, I'll be honest. Dino Bambino and the Ferraris, them guys, the Ferraris look quick this season. Their 1-3 showed it, and even the Alpines, even though, you know, they've got a reserve driver in Cyrax, he looks very competitive, and Hurricane's done a great job. Coward's coming back into the Williams, and obviously the Red Bulls with Sid Kofa and Beast Mode look strong. So for us to even get on the podium is going to be tricky. But we're just going to give it our all. Hopefully by the midway stage, we would have learned enough about the car to be battling for race wins. But at this current moment of time, we're just trying to learn more about the car, get some more points on the board, and you know, if we have a chance for winning the race, hopefully we can take it. But we'll see.
Okay, thank you. Now, obviously, Chick, this is another one for you. You mentioned Beast Mode. Obviously, you've got a previous rivalry with him, obviously dating back to Gen 1 and Gen 2 of GCOR. Do you think that there could be anything happening on track, or will you still respect each other as much as you did back then?
No comment.
Okay, thank you. Now I'm going to go on to Ollie. This will be a question for all of you, but we'll start with Ollie. Obviously, new season, new generation of car tyres. How is everyone feeling about the new tyres? And Ollie, would you mind answering first?
Yeah, I think I've adapted quite well to the new cars. Better than what I thought, and better than everybody else. I think because as you know, Australia, I had pretty good pace compared to everybody else. So yeah, I think I've done pretty good. I quite like the new cars. Yeah.
Thank you. Chick, we'll move on to you with the same question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Obviously, new season, new cars, new tyres. How do you think you and the team are feeling about all these new changes, especially the tyres?
I think tire warm up is crucial. I think getting the tires into the perfect operating range is a little bit easier than last season. Um, but again, as I said, we're still understanding the tires. The new cars in general, they've definitely got more grip, more traction. Right now, the tricky thing about this car is understanding which traction level we should use, whether we should go to no traction control or medium, because we can drive both, but it's all about getting the most out of the car and being as competitive as possible. So it's tricky. It's tricky, but yeah, the new cars, they're better than last season. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you. It's going to be all for today. We will see you all during the Singapore Grand Prix weekend. We hope you will have fun watching and participating. Good luck to all the drivers involved, and thanks for watching. Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the second part of the interviews for GCOR before the Singapore Grand Prix. And we're going to start off with our first question for Coward. Now, last time out in Australia, you arguably had the fastest race pace, winning the sprint, but reliability failed you in the main race. Have you fixed those issues ahead of the Singapore Grand Prix?
When you say reliability, it isn't reliability in terms of my driver skill, and in terms of if I fixed it or not,
Yeah.
we'll just have to see. If it isn't fixed, it's painful. It's painful.
Okay. But do you think you can have those issues fixed before Singapore, or is it going to be something that you're not in control of?
I'm not making any promises.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to Sokofa now. And last time out, you were involved in an incident, obviously, with Tyler and Chick. You ended up receiving 3 penalty points, but no actual in-race penalty or grid penalty. Do you feel like this was the right decision, or do you think that it should have been investigated further?
I mean, personally, from that incident, I'm glad that there's no penalty. Still upset that I had most of the blame, but I can see that I did try to go for a send it move. Try to recreate Chick's move from last season, but sometimes we get over it. It's not gonna be that bad. I don't really worry about it that much.
Okay, another question, Sokofa. Do you think those 3 penalty points are going to slowly start racking up over the season like they did last year, or do you think that's not going to be an issue again this year and you've ironed that out of your driving?
I mean, personally, not getting 25 by the second race is a massive improvement from last season. As you know, I had that quite controversial sprint race last season. Accidentally taking out most of the field due to a game glitch, but reliability was kind of annoying. But I mean, it's 3 penalty points. It ain't gonna be that much.
Thank you. Right, moving on to Stolas. Obviously, your first season here in GCOR. What are your aims and ambitions for this season?
My aims are to reach P10 since I don't know the drivers that well. So I've got to learn how to get past and all that. But it's just trying to get P10s all I'm trying to aim for, really.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Dakota. Obviously, your consistency in GCOR is questioned a little bit, like whether you're in and out the points, DNFing from races. But do you think with this new generation of cars, new season, do you think you can iron out and become a consistent points finisher?
I think, yeah. I feel like, especially after Australia, if I can get I'm still trying to get used to the tuning and such of the cars to get used to how to get them, because I like my setups understeery. So I'm trying to figure out how to manipulate that and not have some crazy thing that I'm not prepared for. So thanks to the data I got from Australia, I think I could potentially at least stay in the points consistently for the season.
Okay, thank you. Now, Coward, obviously your qualifying has been very up and down during Singapore throughout the last 2 seasons, with obviously the rain affected qualifying of Gen.3 Season 1 and then P2 last season. Do you think you can improve on that this season, or do you think you're going to be fighting for the higher positions in qualifying again?
What did you say again?
So obviously your consistency in qualifying around Singapore has been a bit dodgy, with a really low qualifying place in Gen.3 Season 1 and then P2 last season. Do you think you can improve on that P2 and get pole, or do you think you're going to be in the top 5 fighting again?
Well, P2 last season, I mean, that's a good result regardless. And the season before, that was because I didn't save my setup, so I was trying to equip that, and by the time I'd gotten it all equipped, it started raining. So everyone else had done dry times while I was on wet.
Yeah, obviously that was a hectic qualifying session for everyone. Anyway, moving on to Sokofa now. So, your qualifying here at Singapore, similar question to Coward, has been good for you in the past. Well, hasn't been as good as other circuits. Do you think you can iron that out and get your first pole here compared to other circuits?
I mean, from practice on the track that I've done, because I don't want to DNF again, and looking at the time trials, and I know how much more time I have in me. I'm currently ranked like 3rd in our time trials, so at judging, that's usually where I think I am for most of the season. So I think maybe I'd say around top 5 for Singapore's qualifying. I don't think it's gonna end up that bad because last time I got screwed by the rain.
Okay, yeah. Now on to Dakota. Obviously, qualifying and the race, your pace in the car maybe just isn't quite there. Do you think you can make those improvements this weekend and step up and get into the top 10, top 8, maybe even top 5?
I suppose it depends, because I know it tends to rain there a bit. So I know darn well that if it rains, I'm probably just going to be screwed, no questions asked. But I feel that if I get a bit more time, especially in the simulators, I could probably figure something out. But if the worst case scenario, I might not do well in qualifying, but I'm confident that my race pace should be able to make up for it.
Okay, obviously. Solax, your first qualifying session is going to be this weekend. Is there anything specific you're aiming for, or is it just get a competitive time in amongst midfield?
It's just to really get a competitive time, like still learn the new era the new season of cars. So I'm not going to be the best, but I'll hopefully be competitive.
Thank you. Now, Cowell, I've got another one for you. Now, obviously, you're constantly a championship challenger every season that you enter, but Singapore's been one of your weaker circuits, having never scored a podium here in the modern era of GCOR. Do you think that's going to change this weekend, or do you think it's just going to depend on weather, tyre wear, and what happens on track?
Well, on the old games, my pace wasn't the same as it is now, and obviously I had issues with qualifying. In the one where I qualified second, I was the unfortunate bystander in a crash between Sidkofa and Cyrax, so that was just unfortunate. But if I'm now in front of them, but if I get pole because obviously I'm way faster now, then I'm not going to have any issues, am I? So.
Thank you. On to Zakofa. Obviously, you and Red Bull have brought in a new teammate in Beast Mode. What do you think he brings to the team, and will he give you that extra edge to push on and fight for this championship that you got so close to last year?
I mean, after our departure of Dino, I really had to step up as the team leader. So I went scouting and got someone that knows a little bit, but yeah, he's still very new-ish, I'd say. So he has a lot to work on. So obviously helping him out with that, but mainly he was signed on for consistency and points. So it's not me that's doing all the heavy lifting for Red Bull's constructor.
Thank you. Now back on to Dakota. Obviously, with last season's P14 championship finish with 22 points, what's your aim for this season? Do you think you can push up into the top 10 and score more points, or do you think it's just about ironing out being constantly in the points and maybe scoring lower points, but just being more consistent?
I think I'm going to focus on consistency. I know that I've had a track record where I've had up and down. First, I was slow, then I was seen for dirty driving, and now it's kind of going back into slow. So I'm just trying to, one thing at a time, I'll focus on consistency. And when I can do that and get that down packed, I'm going to start challenging for maybe championships and whatnot, but just taking baby steps, you know?
Yeah, that's important for everyone. Now back on to Stolac. Obviously, your first season, once again, as everyone keeps mentioning, mainly me. But what kind of championship position are you looking for this year? A solid midfield driver, challenging that top half, or just getting that consistency and maybe being in the bottom half of the field, but being more consistent and not taking those risks?
Just for the season, I'm going to try and just be consistent in the points. Not make not make too risky of moves. Just sit back, let it all happen. If I go up, I can.
Okay, thank you. Now, one for Coward, obviously about Beast Mode Sam coming back and you being a GCOR icon. How do you feel about, along with you, Chick, Dino, and Beast Mode now being all on the grid with 4 icons? Do you think that's going to bring any more on-track rivalries and incidents, or do you think you're going to respect each other like the champions and race winners you are?
Personally, I don't think anyone's going to be near me on the field, so I won't have any issues.
Good confidence there from you. Now, one more for Coward quickly before I have one final question for you all. Obviously, you were in the Alpine last week, making your season debut, and obviously you're going to be in the Williams again this week. Can you feel those differences between cars, or are they very similar as the teams work closely?
The camera view for the Alpine's a bit worse, but in general, I don't see much difference, to be honest. To be honest, being in the Williams is better because you have the advantage of the garage positions, but it doesn't really make much of a difference at the end of the day.
Right, thank you. Now we're going to go on to Dakota. With this new season of GCOR brings new downforce regulations and new tyre compounds. How are you feeling this season, Jing? You feel more confident with this new regulation set, or do you feel slightly weakened by it?
That's a tough question. I feel I'm gonna have to say I feel like I have a bit more of an advantage. Like I've noticed that I'm mostly finding struggles with the tires, like trying to make sure not to run them out in like the first few laps. But I feel like I can definitely push a bit harder and like not have too many problems. The brakes feel more consistent, so I can actually use them and they feel more smooth in terms of inputs to cars in general. So I definitely think so long as internet problems don't kick in, my wheel to wheel action should be much better now. So I definitely feel much faster and more in control.
Yeah, thank you. Now on to Sokofa. Obviously, you were in the championship battle for a little bit of last season and the year before. Do you think, despite the rough start of the season, you can kick on and challenge again with more race wins and poles? Or do you think it's going to take a little bit of time to get back up to speed?
All right. All I'm gonna say is this. Okay. I had like a 4-race DNF streak and didn't even show up to last season. I still finished 4th. I literally I was literally top 3 pace through every single damn session of Australia, and only got screwed because slight misstep on my part. I don't see myself being at the bottom. I see myself, especially with how order seems to change. I think I know where my new pace is now. I'm definitely not like at Coward's level, but I'd say I'm like lowerish of Hurricane. So I think me and him definitely, like, after we started working together, I think we'll get like solid, comfortable. I'd say probably second to 5th is my depending range for the season.
Okay. Thank you. Now back onto Stolax. Obviously, your first season in GCOR. How do you find these GCOR Formula One cars on their tyres, their reliability, and their traction compared to other cars you've raced?
Well, compared to the cars I've raced, I'm used to cars under steering. So trying to get used to the new regulations is pretty difficult as it's not what I'm used to really. So it's, as well as the new tires, it's hard to adjust really.
All right. Thank you. Now for Coward, and it's going to be, how do you feel strategy-wise going into this weekend? Obviously, I'm not going to make you give too much away, but are you going to be looking as a team and as a driver more at the weather and what's happening on track, or are you going to focus on yourself and the tyres and the situation that comes to you?
We'll just have to wait and see, to be honest. I'm confident in my ability to predict what happens in the weather, but you never know what can happen, to be honest. So.
Okay. Well, thank you all for turning up. It's been nice having you all here and getting you to answer these questions. Thanks everyone for listening at home, and we'll see you all for the Singapore Grand Prix.